Yeah, all right, everyone. Welcome to PM Training School's first webinar of 2026. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Julie De Castro from PM Training School. Before we begin, just a quick housekeeping. Please make sure your microphone is on mute. You can always use the chat to say hello and connect with other attendees here and tell us where you're joining from. If any of you have questions, please type in your message in the chat and we'll address later on during our Q&A portion. And please note that this session is actually on recorded, so we'll make sure that we'll send the recording once actually we have done the webinar. Let's be honest, 2026 is not business as usual. Delivery expectations are rising, teams are stretched, technology is moving fast, and stakeholders want outcomes sooner. The question is, what should we, project managers, master now to stay relevant and deliver real value? So today's session is designed to give you clarity, practical direction, and a skill checklist you can take straight into your work. But before we go to the core of our webinar, let me introduce you first to our CEO, Dr. Faiz, who'll share a bit information about our company, PM Training School. Dr. Faiz? Doctor, you're on mute, sorry.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, because I could see people are joining from everywhere around the world. And thanks, Julie, for giving me this opportunity to talk a little about PM Training School and what we do. First of all, I would be starting this introduction with greetings in our local language, that is Tirio Mori. Tina Koto, Tina Koto, Tina Koto Katoa. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar, in fact. Thanks, Julie, for organizing, and thank you very much, Lee, for accepting our invitation and share what's happening in the world of project management. But before that, if you guys allow me, I would like to share my screen. Is it all right? So, guys, can you see the screen? Awesome. So, PM Training School. I'm representing this corporate training school where we help professionals, teams, and organizations for their professional development, for their capacity building. We help them to train, prepare, and if they are preparing for a certification exam, we help them through coaching, through sport, so that they and their teams could become certified. PM Training School is a New Zealand-based global training provider. We work around the globe. Our main markets are APAC region and USA. And we also do some work in Middle East. We are in corporate training sector. We are authorized training partner with the PMI and few of other global certification bodies. I would be talking more about them very soon. The vision of our organization is to help people to grow in their career and do better what they do at their workplace. I am Fayed Rasool. I migrated to this country, this beautiful country, New Zealand, around 20 years back as a student. So I did my master's and PhD from University of Auckland. That is one of the popular university in APAC region. My background was not in project management initially. I'm an electrical engineer by profession, but after my PhD, I got an opportunity to manage some engineering projects that sparked my interest in project management, sparked my interest in PMI, and then we established this school called PM Training School back in 2015, and we were initially REP, Registered Education Provider with PMI, and later PMI changed this model to ATP, that is Authorized Training Partners with PMI. We work closely with PMI Global and local chapters, including PMI New Zealand chapters. Under PM Training School, we also have some other initiatives, such as we are one-stop shop, an exam hub. People who want to sit for different professional certifications. If they are based in Auckland or nearby regions, they come to our centers and they sit for all different type of certification exams, including medical exams, nursing exams, PMP or PMI exams, security exams, networking exams. So we are very much one-stop provider where we support your professional development journey from start till end. Four top services that we offer are project management and associated fields. We help we help project managers, program managers, and portfolio managers to get their global certifications. We help them to prepare for exam. We provide them facility to sit for the exam. We are also in project management and PMO consultancy as well. We previously worked with uh, global PMOs, Alliance, and we are also in some corporate event management. And thanks to Julie to bring this functionality to our portfolio. Here I would be quickly talking about our corporate training arm. We work closely with our clients to provide them a variety of options for their professional development and capacity building, including face-to-face workshops and trainings, instructor-led virtual trainings, and we do offer on-demand or e-learning certification prep courses where they are allowed. So, depending on your needs, we provide a variety of training options. We are partnered with a number of global bodies. Most important is PMI itself. It is one of the top project management standard setting body based in USA. And Lee knows much better about PMI than me. So he would be sharing his thoughts about PMI and what they do. We are also partnered with Scaled Agile, PeopleSalt, Scrum, IIBA, Open Group for their TOGAF certification, and a number of exam providing companies such as Pearson, Prometric, IDP, ETS, PSI, and Criterion. Because this particular webinar was as per New Zealand time zone, so we are sharing some of the key clients with whom we work, including Fonterra, Ministry of Education, Auckland Council, Auckland Transport, Wellington Electricity, the Lines Company, Contact Energy, Water Care, and many more. Also, we work with global clients such as Procter and Gamble, Dubai Civil Defense, and some of USA clients as well. Why you should talk to us about your professional development and capacity building needs, because we are in this sector for some time now, more than a decade. We know what we do. We know how to support your needs. We are accredited partners. We helped thousands of project, program, and portfolio managers to get their professional certifications such as CAPM, PMP, PGMP, PFMP, and many specialty certifications. We are also one-stop hub, especially for those who are based in New Zealand. Not only they can get trained through us, but also they can sit for exams at our center. When we train our people, we train our clients, we don't leave them just after training. We provide them post-training coaching and support through our learning portal and study groups. We also work closely with PMI Educational Foundation, and as per the vision of New Zealand government, and have a commitment to a social impact through diversity, through inclusion, through equitable outcomes. And the good thing is, where we have a lot of instructors available within New Zealand, we also have worldwide certified instructors available. So in case if you guys are based outside New Zealand, we can still truly help you. Uh, Before starting our trainings, client needs are something that we give utmost importance. So we work closely with our potential clients, try to understand their needs and propose the solutions that really meet their requirements. And then we deliver the solutions that help them to close the gaps for which they reach to us. And then their actual journey starts. We take them from start till end so that their professional needs could be met. And that was a brief introduction of PM Training School. And I would say thank you very much for your patience, for listening this small presentation on PM Training School. And here I would hand over back to Julie De Castro. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Faiz. Now, the moment that you all have been waiting for, we won't give much introduction about him. We know for sure that he's a global icon and most of you knows him. He's a PMI fellow, widely recognized in the global project management community as one of the founders behind PMP certification. He has spoken and trained project professionals across the world and continues to champion project management as a profession that drives real outcomes. The father of project management himself, Mr. Lee Lambert. Thank you for joining us, Lee. The virtual stage is yours.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate that very much. I've really been excited about this program, so I'm glad that we're finally going to get together and do some things. I wanted to make a couple of quick points. Now, this what we talked about, and this is Dr. Faye's idea, is that there are a lot of things going on in 2026 that are new or fairly new. That in many people's opinion, and certainly mine, if we don't master them, we're going to be behind the times. In other words, if there's people that are project managers that don't step up and master some of these things we're going to talk about tonight, they may be left behind. The new process is such that you've got to stay up. I've been in this business now about 60 years, and I've gone through almost all the evolutionary cycles. Back in the 50s and 60s, it was all the earned value and PERT diagrams and all that. Then it moved from that into earned value in a big way where it had to be. Then it went to agile, and now we're in the shall I call it the AI cycle of evolution. So, and all I can tell you is that another few years from now there'll be something else. So, don't get real comfortable with AI either. But if we look at what we're talking about here, I think the AI really took a big step forward at the Atlanta conference, at the Atlanta summit for PMI, when our new CEO, Pierre Lamont, he decided that PMI should be the lead in implementing project management utilizing the AE concepts. So the AI, so he hit it big in Atlanta. In fact, a lot of people said it turned into the PMI AI conference in Atlanta, and pretty soon people got kind of tired of hearing about AI. In fact, it's that way with some people now. But the fact of the matter is, I was one of those, by the way. But the fact of the matter is, the more I studied it, the more I realized this was really a major breakthrough for project managers. I mean, you can do lots of things with it, make fancy pictures and all. I don't care about that. I care about project management. And what I've determined is if we are able to become adept at using the AI concepts, it makes our job a lot easier. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit to make sure you understand this is worth learning. If you're one of those like I was in the beginning, that says, I'm not doing that, wake up. Because everybody else is going to be doing it. So when we first started, everybody was worried that AI was going to take their job. They were going to have a job anymore. And so I had to talk to a lot of people. I had to talk them off the ledge because they were so worried about it. But what I finally ended up telling the people, and you need to be aware of this, is that AI will never take your job. I can say that without any question. It will never take your job. However, if you choose not to embrace the concepts of AI, someone who does embrace them may take your job. That's not the same as AI replacing you. That's saying that your inability to stay with the group has put you at such a point that you can be replaced by another human. And so it's important to understand AI doesn't make decisions. AI is a way to provide information that supports the decision maker. And every project manager is at some level or another is a decision maker. And so what I understand is that the better the information is, the more timely it is, the more complete it is, the better decisions I should be able to make. So it seems to make sense to me. So when you look at that, we kind of saw that there's a couple of areas where it really hits home. First is on the planning side. If you're going to plan your projects, which gosh, I hope you are. If you're going to plan your projects, AI can increase the quality and the speed with which you develop those plans, probably in half the time or less than it would take you without an AI function. And I think part of the reason for that is what the byproduct of the term AI is. And if I can use the one that's most famous, I guess, for now is Chat GPT. And if you look at that, that's really the basis for the benefits associated with AI when it comes to planning, because you can put information into the chat bot, and it can give you answers that you wouldn't have been able to get. I worked at General Electric for about 11 years, and one of the things I had was a project controller for a $300 million a year nuclear reactor project. So I used to have to do the monthly report for DOE, and it took me about a week to put all the data together, to combine it the way it needed to be, and then to report to the decision makers 2, 3, 4 levels above me what the data said so that they could make decisions. So by the time we got the information out of the reporting system, it was already 3 days late, and then another week. So it's almost 2 weeks into the month that we're supposed to be reporting on a month or half a month ago. So now with that idea, then I went back and mocked up some information that took my General Electric experience that took 2 weeks to get to a report, and ran that same data as if I were using AI. It took about 4 hours, not 2 weeks, 4 hours to prepare a comprehensive report for decision makers on a $300 million a year project. It's all the difference in the world. So when you look at the planning side, the key to it working to your effect, and this is one of the reasons you want to grasp it as quickly as possible, is everything on the forward side is built on existing data. In other words, from prior projects. So we've recorded a historical relationship. In Agile, we call it retrospective, where we look at what happened, why did it happen, what are we going to do to make it not happen again, or make it happen again. And so when you do that, and then you tell the chatbot what you want to do with the data, it actually forecasts for you what the plan looks like. And so the planning will take about half the time, and the quality of the plan will be substantially better than what you got in the quote old days when you and 5 other people spent a week trying to figure out how it was going to be done. So when you look at the AI process and look at the chatbots and start to realize that if I use them correctly, I should be creating a better basis for decisions, which should lead, we hope, to better decisions, more cost effective decisions, more timely decisions, all the things that when I was a project manager without AI that I used to pray for. So this is God's answer to my prayers that AI has what it takes to make you be a substantially better project manager than you ever were before. So I think it's important to recognize where that all comes together. The data has to be representative, and one of the problems that we have with AI, in fact, many people have voiced this problem, is that when you use these bots, you have to worry about the quality of the data. In other words, remember, let's just take ChatGPT for example. It's basically made up of trillions of bits of information put into a large language model, and based on all of that data, which comes from all over, when you ask it to give you some answers, it'll give you answers, all right, but are they good answers? Are they representative of the area you want to deal with? And the fact of the matter is, we're finding that the quality of outputs from a GPT or from Gemini or Microsoft Pilot, any of them, they just reach out and grab whatever data they have in their system, and then they report the answer to you. Well, if that data is not relevant, then the quality of your answer is not good. And in fact, it's saying that one of the final steps in using AI is to check the quality of the data. And what you mean by that is most of us in project management have been doing it long enough. We sort of know what makes sense and what doesn't. So when the chatbot gives you a response and you look at it and you go, is that really true? Well, it probably isn't, because what it's done is it's just reached out and grabbed whatever it could and give you the answer. So the way they've worked with that, and I think it's working, is that when you use a chat, GPT or any others, you have to create the question. Well, they give it a fancy name called a prompt. You have to develop the prompt. In other words, how am I going to ask the chat this question? Because the quality of the prompt directly correlates to the quality of the answer. And so once I understand what I limit to, in other words, I try to specify what role I'm in, what job I'm in, what product or output I'm looking for, and then the chatbot knows what to grab and what not to grab. And so those are called prompts. Now, what PMI has done some great things. When they decided to take the lead in this whole so-called AI business, they immediately created training programs for people that hadn't really been familiar with all of this AI stuff, which was most of us. They created a way to ask these questions, and they actually produced a book, and now there's about 7 books on the market that are basically books that say, here's how you write a prompt for this kind of a situation. Here's one for this kind of situation. And so what it does is it helps you create a prompt that's going to give you the best response. PMI has a book called, I think it's called Talking to the Machine, that basically is a prompt directive, shows you how to write a prompt, what to put in it, what not to put in it. And that gives you the idea that you can control your response. Now, what happens if you don't do that using a prompt guide? You end up writing 3 different prompts. The first one is not what you liked at all. The second one is better because you've eliminated some of the non-essential, and then finally the third one you get a good one. So it kind of shoots the time advantage down because you're having to rewrite the prompts to make them more definitive in what they do. So that's one of the areas where if you haven't read a prompt book and you're going to use AI, then you better get one. You better get one quick because everybody's buying them and everybody's learning how to do this very effectively. So by the end of 2026, I think AI will be proven to be here to stay. And so you want to try to catch up. If you're behind, if you're ahead, that's great. I apologize that I've even mentioned it to you. But if you look at that, then you say, okay, well, if I got to learn this, what else do I need to learn? Well, PMI is trying to stay ahead of the power curve. And what they've done now is they have created their own bot, if you will. And what PMI calls it is PMI Infinity. That's their own version. And the reason they did their own version is almost all of the chat bots that were out there at the time didn't really take into account the language of project managers, the concepts that we use in project management. And so PMI decided we're going to create our own. Now, the only downside of that is that it's new. It's only been out a year or so, so it's still not fully populated. But it's still better than a normal bot because now it's based on project management concepts. And that's free too. Everything's free from PMI. Well, not everything, but a lot of things are free from PMI. And you say, well, aren't they nice people? No, they're not nice people necessarily. They just want you to know how to do what you're a member of in terms of a project management association. And so, back when in the old days, when I first joined about 48 years ago, when I first joined PMI, and for the next 10 or 15 years, the attitude of the people like me was, God, all they do is raise money. Everything you get from PMI is about money. Pay more money. And so people got to where some people discontinued their membership. Well, I'll tell you, when Pierre came in, he's reversed that completely. Now, if you go into the PMI website, most of the new things that have come out are available to you free. Not the certificates. You have to usually, the same as everywhere, you have to pay for certification. But the fact of the matter is, all this AI training classes, there's 4 of them. I took all 4 of them. I hated every minute of it, but I had to know it to be able to communicate with people. So I got them all right. I passed a lot of tests. And so it made me start to think, education never stops. I mean, I'm almost 80 years old and I'm still taking classes. What is that all about? I mean, and the reason I am is the same reason I'm on here with you tonight, is that you need to stay current. And you're not going to stay current by just thinking about it. You have to either get into some training, get into some applied opportunities where you can begin to use some of this AI stuff to improve your performance. It's really all about you. I don't know anybody that's got stake in the AI businesses. It's stake in project management, and this will give you a better insight in how to do that. So AI is one very specific. I'll just say it again. I'm going to repeat it because some people don't get it. If you don't master AI, you're going to be behind. It's as simple as that. And I don't know if it's that way in New Zealand, but your salary's based on your performance. And if you don't understand AI, your performance is going to be less than someone who does. So I think you should take it into account. If you're a PMI member, take those classes because it'll help you tremendously in understanding what it can be done. Okay. Now that's gonna, and you say we got a little time for questions at the end. So if there's anything I've left out, which easily could happen, let's ask a question at the end. But there's another one that I've got to deal with, and that is, well, it's a subset of AI really, and that's risk management. One of the things that AI does is supply enough meaningful information that I can anticipate risks sooner. I can take mitigating actions sooner, and the sooner you can mitigate risk, the less impact it has on the downstream part of the project. So to me, it's the biggest benefit, is the risk management capability. Now, PMI has a separate certification for risk management. Not enough people are doing that, as far as I'm concerned. If risk is one of the most beneficial things, I would think a lot more people would want to do that. So use the AI for that. Okay, now what I want to get to is the second piece that is more me than AI is, and that's called the power skills. One of the things that we've done recently, that PMI has done, is they changed what you and I, well, you're probably not old enough to remember, but you and I used to call them soft skills. That's always been the terminology, soft skills. It's not our terminology at PMI. We call them power skills. And the power skills have taken on a new power within the PMI world, saying, if we don't use the power skills, this is communications and all the things associated with what we call soft skills, people skills, if we don't use those effectively, then the power of AI becomes undermined substantially. So if my output of AI is decision support information, and then I don't communicate it effectively, then I've lost all the balance of power that would have come from that AI. So what we've said is we need to really look at our communication skills. I think people assume, I know I do, assume I'm a good communicator. I know what I said, so what's your problem? So you start to realize one of the reasons we have so many problems in the world of project management is inconsistent communications. And I've seen this excuse used to cover everybody's backside and say, what happened? Well, it's just a matter of poor communication. Well, yeah, that's probably true, but you need to control that. You need to understand what you're communicating to whom. And in today's world of project management, because our teams are made up of multinationals, our teams are made up of multilinguals, communication becomes even a bigger issue. When it was pure, let's say they're all Chinese, they're all people from New Zealand, they're all people from the U.S., we all take the same language, we have a leg up that way. But now when you look at some of the teams, I've seen teams with 7 or 8 different nationalities, all working together as if they were one unit, but the fact of the matter is communication is not necessarily very clear. And so we've got to look at how can we improve the communications. And so it starts to talk about things like servant leadership. Some like this, some don't like it. Some interpret servant leadership as that you are going to give up everything and just do whatever the people want. That's not what we mean by that. What we mean by servant leadership is you're going to pay attention to the needs of the people and you're going to provide them what they need to do their job. And that's one of the worst things that we can do to project management people on assignment is not give them what they need to do their job. It'd be like giving a bricklayer a job and no bricks. You can't, you got to have everything you need. So one of the things servant leaders do is that they find out what the needs of the workers are and then attempt to provide that to them and respond to their needs as they come about. So servant leadership is, it's not new, but it's been reserved for special people. That's the way they operate, and they get a lot of results. People go say, "Why can't you do that?" Well, 'cause I don't want to let go. I want control. Well, a servant leader doesn't have, quote, control in the traditional way that we think about it. So we have to look at the power skills, and among those are negotiations. Among those are clarity of content. So all of those things go into the idea that I need to make sure I'm communicating. So I'm going to tell you about a little model that I use to help myself. And that is, if you look at communications, the first thing you have to understand is that the the objective of the communication needs to be identified. In other words, I haven't started communicating yet because I don't want to communicate till I know why I'm communicating. What's the purpose of the communication? So you set that above this little model that I'm going to talk about. So now I know specifically what I want the outcome of that communication to be. Then I have to go to this little, it's a rectangular, if I had a blackboard I'd show you. But on one side is the encoding of the message. Okay. On another side, on the right-hand side, is the decoding of the message. On the bottom of the model is the transmission of the message. And at the top of the model is the feedback loop. Okay, so now let me walk you through that for a second, because there's one other thing I didn't say. In the middle of this little rectangle is a big circle, and inside that circle is information about the person to whom you are going to communicate. So you want to identify their religion, their background, their residence, their schooling, their language, anything you know about them that will help you communicate more effectively. So it's just like the example we give. If I'm going to France and I speak Polish, I'm not going to have much luck getting along. In fact, even if you speak French in France. But if you look at that, you've got to understand, I have to be speaking their language. Not my language, their language. So I encode the message based on the objective, okay? So then I say, okay, now I got the message encoded. I think I've taken into account all the concepts of the receiver. Now, what am I going to do with it? Well, now I have to transmit it. I have to get it to the person. Now you got some decisions to make. How am I going to transfer this information? What's the most effective way? Face to face. And the reason for that is you can get feedback, you can get discourse, dialogue going between you until you agree that you agree. Unfortunately, that's the one we use least often because the decision makers are often very busy people and don't have time for us. So that puts us into the written mechanism. Well, that's the way of the world right now. You do it, I do it, everybody does it. We call it email. And email is the scourge of the earth. It has allowed us to be just ridiculously verbose in how we communicate. I've seen emails that are 2 and 3 pages long. How's that going to communicate to anybody? By the time you interpret each paragraph, you've lost the content. So what we have to point out is communication in a written format needs to be very succinct and very much targeted at the objective that we're trying to achieve. And so we eliminate the misunderstandings by being very specific. So we look at that, and the other one that we've done, although I think most people have quit this, is voicemail. Leave a voicemail. Well, nobody's going to return your call. They forget about it. Or some of them don't even listen to them. So we've got the face-to-face, which is by far and away the best, and the urgency will depend on the impact of miscommunication. If I miscommunicate and there's no major problem associated with that, okay, then let's not worry about it. But if I miscommunicate and don't get something done when we're supposed to, now we've got a serious problem. That would require face-to-face. Okay, so now we have this communication ready to send. So now we're sending it. So we send it to the person who's going to be interpreting. That's called the decoding process. I took a lot of time coding it. Now they're going to take time decoding it. And what they're trying to do is figure out what the heck you're asking for so that they understand what they're going to deliver. And the problem is, here's the problem. This is one that you want to keep in mind for your communications. No communication is perfect the first time. So when you communicate to them, your next obligation is to confirm they received the message. In other words, say to them, now, do you understand the message? Well, of course, they'll always say they do because they don't want to admit they're not getting it. So if they say yes, oh yeah, I get it. Say, oh, well, just help me out here. Let me make sure that I've communicated well. In other words, now I'm taking the ownership of the problem. And so when they tell you what they think that you're asking for, and you go, oh no, that's not anything like what I want. I've communicated poorly to you. See, I'm taking ownership of it. So now they'll tell me, well, this is what I think. And now we get to a point where we say, okay, I get what you're after. I understand what you're communicating. I think we got it. And so we've communicated the process. Now we put it in the feedback loop. And now anybody or everybody gets to take a look at that and say, does this communicate? Because it's not just about you and one other person. Other people have to understand it as well. So when we look at that idea of communication, we have to understand that it has to be communicative both ways, in both directions, to them and from them. So when we look at this, we have to remember that process. And the more you use email, the less effective it's going to be. I have a rule in my organization. My daughter works for me, and I have a rule that says no email will be more than 2 paragraphs. No email better more than 2 paragraphs. And that's just a rule of thumb based on this understanding. And so about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, she came to me and she said, I need a decision on that XYZ thing that we've been talking about. I said, what are you talking about? She said, I sent you an email last week that said I need a decision so we can move forward with that project. And I said, was that the 3-page thing that I got? She said, yeah, that's it. I said, I didn't read that. I said, I'm not reading the 3 pages of email. If you get that down to 2 paragraphs, you and I'll have a discussion. Because you can't use that many words. All it does for the person interpreting it is it confuses them. What do you really mean by that? So don't hesitate to ask for clarity. Now, what's the worry? Well, they'll think I'm stupid because they think they communicated clearly, and now I'm saying, well, I don't understand what you're asking me, and now they say, well, why don't you? I did. So you have to realize this is a very delicate people relationship. So you can't just arbitrarily say, well, that's a piece of crap. Don't send me that stuff anymore. That's not going to work. And so you've got to spend time with this so-called communication model, and it takes probably to run the model, probably take 25, 30 minutes to run it, unless it takes you a long time to encode the message. And when you're done and when it's gone through the feedback loop, there's a clarity among the people communicating of what it is we're trying to do. And we have to bounce it off that objective. Does all of this communication that we've just taken care of, does it satisfy the objective that we're trying to get to on the communication itself? So you see, we've driven the answer to be consistent with the objective. Most people, maybe that's true, a lot of people don't establish the objective of the communication before they start communicating. And I was guilty of that for a long time. And you have to understand, you can't communicate if you don't know what you're communicating for. And so we have to look at that. Now, a lot of organizations have encouraged Toastmasters, encouraged people to get involved in a Toastmasters. The reason they're doing that is not so you can do a TED Talk. That's not why we're doing it. We're doing it so you can become better at communicating. You can become more effective at communicating. And so then we can be in a position where we don't have to worry as much about your communication skills because you've gone through training. And I think that project management has embraced Toastmaster. I think that we have 309 chapters in PMI. And they're all over the world. I've spoken at most of them, I think. They're all over the world. And one of the things we see is more and more chapters are embracing Toastmasters as one of their internal programs. And that's not, again, so you can do TED Talks. It's so you become a better communicator in the project management environment. So if you can't master that, and people are afraid of, I'm going to call it public speaking, but if I'm speaking to two people, it's public speaking, they're afraid of it. And what happens is any good project manager is very effective at communications. I've dealt with some really, really, really smart people who couldn't communicate their way out of a paper bag. They just don't know how to get points across. They're geniuses, but they can't communicate very effectively. So I think you should spend time working on that. As we look at this, the other thing is sort of come out that you need to be aware of. It depends on where you are in the hierarchy. Is this whole idea of governance? How are we controlling changes? In other words, change control. One of the problems we have in change control is that nobody's managing it. And we get arbitrary change being made, and we don't discover it until we're a lot farther along in the project. So now they're starting at the very top of the organization and saying, let's establish a governance structure so that we know that as we move down the hierarchy onto the projects, that those projects are maintained through some governance process. So that's getting to be a very important thing. It's going to be higher level management that generally gets more involved in that, but it's something you have to look at. The other one is being comfortable with the flexibility in the way we organize our projects. We have the predictive way, we have the agile process, and we have the hybrid. Those are the three basic components. Well, what we found now is there are very few pure projects that are all one or the other. So what we're finding is in some projects, some of it will be done in a predictive mode, some of it will be done using agile concepts, and then some of them will combine those. We have to become good at that. This is an area I've not mastered myself right now, mainly because I'm not actually doing projects anymore. But I think if I were going to be doing them, I would have to, because I'm a predictive guy. I mean, I grew up with the old work breakdown structure, and that's the way it was, a hierarchical up from top to bottom. Well, that's not the way it works anymore. And we've come up with these ways, and especially because Agile, which was kind of created by the IT people, have figured out a way to deliver interim deliverables. In other words, I don't have to wait till the whole project's over before I can deliver something. So now I can deliver pieces of the project in an agile way, knowing that I'm not done with the project, but I am done with this piece, and then I can move to the next step. So all of those are being pushed right now by corporations. And I try to keep track of some of the big corporations, the big banks, the big steel companies, and they're definitely using the hybrid approach. They're using the right thing for the right project, and people are having to learn how to deal with those. So that's the idea behind those as well. And I think I'm out of time. I don't know. Do you want to move to questions? I know there's bound to be some. I mean, if I were to cover everything that you must master, we'd be here till tomorrow. Because everything that we're doing in the year 2026, you better by golly master it, or you're going to be sorry.
Thank you so much for that, Lee. It's very insightful talk. Just as expected, the biggest takeaway for us this webinar for sure. It strikes to everyone. That's 100% sure because it's all on the chat. It's communication. It stood out. It feels like this is an area that we all in work in progress, especially when dealing with projects. We thank you so much for that. This is really very, very helpful for us. I think now we're okay to start our Q&A. I don't know if anyone has fired a question here. Okay, we have one from Luciano. Can you share the top 3 AI skills to become familiar with?
Yeah, I can. I can give you 2 data points. Well, no, I'm gonna give you 3. The first one is Gen AI. Generative. In other words, you create what you can really create your own layout, your own way of organizing the data. That's a free class, good class, by the way. Then you look at data landscape. That's basically showing you the different ways that you can create and formulate data process to assist you in planning and organizing and reporting. And then the final one is a new one that we just acquired a company at PMI, which is it's an AI certification and I'm in the middle of taking that right now. It's a bear. It's very difficult. Now it's a very hot certification. In other words, we're the first one to have it, and there's people going out of their way to get it. It's a 5-day course to prepare to take the exam to get certified. I'm only halfway through it, and that's killing me. It's killing me because I'm not an AI guy, so I'm really having to work hard to keep up with it. But that's PMAI, I think it's called, certification. The best thing to do is to look at the PMI website, pmi.org, and get into their courses on AI because it'll spell. There's more than 3, by the way. It'll spell those out for you, and you'll have a better understanding independently of each one.
Okay, thanks for that, Lee. Another one from Kate. A question she has is curious to learn what Mr. Lambert thinks of something that a PM should stop doing these days, something that should be left in the past. Any tips and tricks that you can give us?
Oh, should stop doing. Oh, I see that question. Yeah. Well, complaint. No, that's a different one. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I think I think we spend too much time analyzing status. And the reason I say that is really sort of drive it to the AI opportunity. If you do AI well, if you do generative AI, if you create the right database, if you will, the analysis becomes self-evident. In other words, you don't have to spend all kinds of time looking at this, looking at that, weighing, doing calculator. Put the damn calculator away. You don't need it. These are the ways that we look at that. Now, the other thing that I would be careful how much detail I go to. You see, the more detail, the more work you're going to have to do. Now, some people that are detail oriented say, no, no, I need all that detail. I don't believe it. I think a smart project manager, smart's not the right word, an effective project manager can identify status without having to go into the bowels of the organization, because you can start to read data, especially with AI. I can create a situation where it basically tells me what the status of the work is. I might have to create some rationale for how to deal with it, but I don't need to determine what it is.
Okay, thanks for that, Lee. Another one from, oops, goes up. Nikki. Oh, 1 second. What happened? It went up. There's a lot of messages going on. I deal a lot with project financials across a range of projects and programs. What are the top AI skills to be familiar to incorporate into this process?
I'm not sure I understand that question.
Yeah.
Say it again. I'm
Okay, so
trying to look where I can read.
sure, I deal a lot with project financials across a range of projects and programs.
Yeah.
What are the top AI skills to be familiar with to incorporate into this process?
Ah, okay. Well, this sort of rolls back to how have I organized the structure of my project? Because a good project manager knows that if you look at what the heck's going on with my computer? If you look at, hold on just a sec, something weird just happened. Okay, there you go. If you structure your project, I'll use WBS just as a way to frame rest. If you structure your project by work content, scope of work, that drives out a cost to do that scope of work. So now we've got a WBS element with a scope of work, a duration based on some estimate, and a cost estimate. Okay, so if I have those cost estimates and then I run the status report, I will show, for example, this one work breakdown structure element is showing that it's ahead of schedule. It's ahead of schedule. Now, if I'm in the finance department, what do I want that finance data to tell me?
Okay.
Well, for sure, it will tell you what you want it to tell you. It's not overrun. In other words, we're ahead of schedule, which means technically I must have done more work than I anticipated, so therefore there should be more cost than I expected. So I start to look at all that finance. This is where I've always said if I had this stuff when I was actually running projects, I'd rule the world right now because there's so much information. You can look like a genius because of the things that you can do based on AI information. But financially, that's a really easy one. Really, the only problem we have is oftentimes what I see is a project plan with durations and scope, but finances are somewhere else. They're not linked to the scope. So now I can't really do effective financial analysis because there's not a linkage between the work scope and the finances that have been expended. So it's you can look like a hero if you don't like doing financial analysis, probably because you're doing it wrong. Because I think it's one of the areas that you can really add value.
Thanks for that, Lee. And another one, and I think this will be the last because we have time is running now. So, what is your advice to project managers on how delivering the value and realize the benefits? This is from Sherry.
That's the toughest question on the block. Because right now, you all know if you're in there project management at all, the big thing right now is value. Did you deliver value? And that's not that you deliver $2,000 worth of work. It's basically saying if you think about the old days, we used to measure project success by output. What the project deliver? Well, we don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore. We now measure project success by outcome. So in other words, let's say we're going to build a rec center. Okay, we're going to build a rec center in our town. The output would have been the building. Okay. Now we're saying we're going to build a rec center, and by having a rec center, we're going to see the crime data from juvenile crime go down because they're going to have a place to go rather than wandering in the streets. That then now the value would be, did we achieve that? So now when we delivered the building, we're not done because we don't know if we're going to get the outcome or not. And so you have to look at that from that standpoint. That's how you measure value. So when you look at your project, the first thing you ought to ask yourself or ask the people that is giving you the project is, what is this project going to achieve? What is it going to do for the organization? Well, it's going to make money. No, that's not what I'm talking about. What is it going to do? What's the value of doing this project? And I think if you could get people to start doing that, we'd have a lot less projects. Because I think people sometimes accept projects, they don't know why they're doing them. They just know they got budget and they want to do something. So by forcing the value discussion to take place, it raises the question, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And I've heard good project managers come in to a project review meeting and ask that very thing. Why are we doing this? And the individual didn't have an answer. So he said, well, stop doing it. So it gives you that sort of insight into how it's done. And that value discussion is top of the list these days with management.
Thanks for that, Ali. Doc, do you have any additional message or information that you want to share regarding the talk?
I would say thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining, for listening to Lee. I hope you enjoyed the session and let's stay connected.
Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you so much, Lee, for sharing your time and expertise with us. We truly appreciate it. To everyone who joined, thank you for being part of PM Training's first webinar of 2026. Each month, we will conduct a lot of discussion. There will be new topics, new guests as well, guest speaker for us. And if you'd like to supporting today's insight into a certification pathway, whether PMP, APM, GPM, even the CPMI, that was discussed during the talk, please let us know. We do have as well our corporate training, our tailored one. So drop us an email. We will definitely send you all this information after this talk. Ngam Mihi Nui. Have a great day and evening to everyone. Thank you so much.